What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to another episode of College Football Mornings. It is September 5th, and we still technically have one game left of week one, but it has been an incredible week. I'm so glad that college football is back, including the incredible game that ended last night between Jordan Travis and the Florida State Seminoles against LSU and Jaden Daniels. Brian Kelly's first game. It was a great game. We're definitely going to talk about that. So the plan moving forward, guys, with this college fantasy tonight is kicking into full gear every Saturday night. I will link that episode in the description below for you guys to check out. I'm not really going to recap any of those games, as we kind of dove really deep into them on that. I'm going to go into some of the later games that we didn't get a chance to cover, maybe a really intriguing matchup we didn't, for whatever reason, cover there, and then anything we missed. Obviously, again, the Florida State and LSU game, which was on Sunday night. We do that on Saturdays. They're late Saturday games. That's the goal here, though, on what we're going to cover throughout the Monday shows. We'll continue to give you guys some high school action, though not a lot to talk about this week. We'll drop players of the week. And of course, we've got looks at the early betting lines as well. But I'm also going to take you guys through the top 25 every single week. I think that matters for college football. As again, we go and move to a right now still 14 playoff system. And I guess let's talk a little bit about that really quick. I want to dive into Friday. So for those of you who don't know, I don't want to call it a bill. It was passed that they're going to move to a 12-team college football playoff format in no later than 2026. What this means is obviously we're going to get 12 teams in the playoffs. There's still a lot of talk on when the schedule of that will actually start. Some are saying that they'll start it a little bit earlier so these teams don't have to play as many games, but it's definitely not going to run past a certain point. Look, I'm for it. Talked a lot about it on Better Sports Radio. We do a radio show there every Saturday morning. Now come by, check us out from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. We talked a lot about this on there. I am for the 12-team format, and I am a fan of Ohio State. If you can't tell the jersey behind me and the sweatshirt I have on. So it doesn't really affect me. They're likely in no matter what, but I do think it just expands the hope for other fan bases. And I think we all get, if you're a fan of, I'll just use Florida State, who played a great game last night, right? If you're a fan of Florida State, like, yeah, okay, you may understand that there's a shot that you may still be a little bit of ways away from winning a national championship. You've done it in the past decade with Jameis Winston, but you may be a little bit away from that right now. But if you get in, you never know what happens. And I know we want to see the best team win every single year. And typically I do as well. I like it when a Georgia won last year. That defense was generational. They were incredible. They deserved to win, and they did. But every once in a while, we like to see the underdog win, and we like to see the upsets. We distinctly remember those Giants runs when they were the lowest wild card team in the NFL go on and then win a Super Bowl. Strahan's last Super Bowl, and even the year where they go and defeated the undefeated New England Patriots, that was one of the best offenses we've ever seen at the NFL level, and they go in and beat them. And we love that. Now, sure, some of that was because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are the villain. You're telling me if a Michigan State, if a Florida State, those were two of the teams that would, or Florida State would not use that as an example. Michigan State would have been the 12 seed last year. Tell me if they go into the second round matchup against Alabama and they beat them, that we wouldn't be cheering for that? Of course we would. No matter what we say, the public and most, whether you want to call them fair weather fans, bandwagon fans, whatever, fans who maybe don't love college football the way that we do, they love to see that. They love the Cinderella and they love the underdog. And I'm going to be honest, I would too. Because it's only going to happen like once every 10 years, probably. I would still love to see that happen because it's just what it makes the sport great, in my opinion. So every given Saturday, just like every given Sunday, you never know. The difference with Sunday is those teams are in somewhat closer comparison due to salary caps and everything going on. With college football, there are wide disparities between these teams. It's not going to change much for those top teams. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, if they start moving back up there, USC now maybe with Lincoln Riley, Texas, Oklahoma, like these top end schools are going to continue to be up there, and they're going to be the ones with the best odds to win a national championship. I won't lie to you. Like, As an Ohio State fan, if they were in the second round, and we'll talk about how that matters with the rounds here in a second, and they got knocked out by like a 9 seed, would I be pissed for a day? Yes, absolutely. Would I probably root against that 9 seed team the rest of the playoffs? Yes, absolutely, because I'm petty. But at the same time, after a couple days or a couple weeks, maybe years, I would go back and enjoy that. Just like when Baker Mayfield came into Columbus, beat the Buckeyes, slammed that flag into the ground. I hated that dude. And then I started liking him more and more. I started like, man, this guy's actually kind of a good quarterback prospect. He ends up going to my Browns, but I liked him before then anyway. Like, your mind changes after a certain point in time. I just think it's going to be fun. Are we going to see blowouts? Yes, absolutely. But it is, we're seeing him in bowl games anyway. Why not make it a playoff format and just put a little bit more of stakes on it? Like, there are more stakes on a playoff matchup than just a bowl game. So how the format works is the top 4 seeds get a bye. I do think that actually matters now for the top 4 seeds. We hear a lot about when when the format expands, you're not going to care about being a top team. Now you will, because the top 4 teams get a bye. On top of that, in the first round, so the 12 seed versus the 5 seed, whoever the 5 seed is, let's just use, I don't remember who it was last year. I'm just going to use Cincinnati. I know they were a 4 seed last year. Let me use Cincinnati. If Cincinnati were the 5 seed last year, they get the home game. That part of it I love as well. As a college football fan, for you to get a playoff game at your home stadium, I already know. And anybody who's been to a college game knows the home stadium atmospheres are some of the best things that you can experience in your entire life. Some of my favorite sporting events are live college football events at the home stadiums when they're playing. Could you imagine Penn State getting it and doing a whiteout as well for a playoff? Like, that would be amazing. LSU in Death Valley on a Saturday night in the playoffs when they've got an Oregon coming into town from the Pac-12 because they're the 7th seed or whatever. Like, that part of it is going to make it fun. And again, yes, I get we're going to get some blowouts, but that's going to be amazing for those college home fan bases to get a playoff game in there, stakes up. Like, I mean, I cannot wait. 2026 can't get here quick enough if you guys can't tell. After that, though, you go into the second round. The 4 teams then do get home games as well. Or if you're in a northern state and you do not want to play out in the cold weather, you can choose a neutral location indoor stadium, whichever you want, which I also think is very cool. I still think the northern teams are probably like a Michigan last year. They had the snow game against Ohio State. I still think if they're sitting there and like, oh yeah, we've got Alabama coming up, they don't want to go indoors. They want to keep it outside. That's the way they play their football. But I do like the fact that they're giving those teams the option in case you do get, really bad weather. The year the Super Bowl was in Minnesota, and I think everybody was kind of like having to use all the indoor stuff because they just got like horrible snow. Even the year it was in Dallas, we got horrible snow. Granted, the stadium's indoors, but if it wasn't, that would not have been fun for everybody. So I do like the fact that you can make it a neutral location. Then after that, it just goes to regular format. You're going to get bowl game spots or neutral locations, which I'm still cool with. But I think it's going to be great for college football. I am beyond excited for it. I know a lot of other people aren't. They're like, oh, it's just going to water down. It's not going to water down anything, in my opinion. You're still competing to win. You need to be a top 12 seed. And I still think some of those games are going to matter. I mean, I know everybody goes back to last year, with the rankings. But again, if you go back 2 years ago, Michigan State would have been the 12 seed last year. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they don't have a massive game, but like that have been it would have been them versus Ohio State. And then the winner goes and plays Michigan for a shot to move on. Like, I'm sorry. That is intriguing to me. I love the idea of that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then you go back 2 years ago, people say the 12 seed. The 12 seed was Notre Dame, guys. Notre Dame's typically a good football team. Now, granted, they've kind of choked in the playoffs, but they're typically a good football team. Like, it's not going to be the same every year. And I also don't think we're going to get a lot of G5s in here. A lot of the other complaints I've seen is, oh, well, now we're going to get G5. I don't think we will. With the way college football is moving and the super conferences building and all the realignment, I think we're realistically going to see whatever happens with the Pac-12 and the Big 12. I'm still trying to figure that part out, as I think they are. I think we're going to see, obviously, probably 4 or 5 Big 10 and SEC schools in every single year. And then the other 4 teams are probably going to be split between the Pac-12, Big 12, and I think one G5 may get in every single year, if there even is a G5. I don't know that there will be. Everybody talked about Cincinnati. Well, guys, by that point in time, Cincinnati's going to be in the Big 12. There's a shot they're going to be Big 12 next year. So they're not going to be a G5 team anymore. I think this is moving toward we're not going to see G5s in the playoffs. It's going to be these big schools. Regardless, I can't wait. Super excited. I went way too long on that. So, top 25. We're going to start just in order of the games that have or haven't been played in the order that they were played. We're going to start with Clemson. Clemson plays Georgia Tech tonight at 7 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Eastern. I do expect them to win that game, so I imagine they probably stay close to 4. I don't imagine they drop or move up. The 12 seed Oklahoma State beat Central Michigan 58-44. We saw how much Jim Knowles meant to that defense, at least for one game, because that was not the amount of points I expected a Central Michigan team to put up on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Number 17, Pitt hangs on to beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl 38-31. Wake Forest, the number 22 team, wins 44-10 over VMI. Michigan State, the 15 team, won against Western Michigan 36-13. Texas A&M blanks Sam Houston. They are the 6th ranked team, 31-0. Michigan, the 8th ranked team currently, 51-7 over Colorado State. And in fact, I saw the early line open late last night, Sunday night. They're like getting negative 50 against Hawaii right now. Like, that's just insane to me. NC State, the 13th ranked team, 21-20 over East Carolina. They should have lost that game. It's a crazy thing about week 1 in college football. It happens in NFL as well, but it's more stated in college football because of the rankings. And really, you can only lose maybe one game a season, if that. They should have lost this game, but I think NC State's going to be fine. The defense was really good. Devin Leary was kind of up and down. He had some very impressive throws, but struggled at times. Regardless, I think they're going to be fine in the long run, but it was one of those games where they got a little bit lucky with the missed field goal, and I believe it was 2 missed extra points. Regardless, they got lucky. Number 11, Oregon gets destroyed by number 3, Georgia. I was wrong about that game. Georgia wins 49-3. Number 9, Oklahoma doesn't seem to skip a beat, losing Lincoln Riley. They win 45-13 against UTEP. Number 16, Miami beats Bethune 70-13. They got backups in like the second quarter. That was a tough game. Another really intriguing close game this weekend was number 23 Cincinnati against number 19 Arkansas. Arkansas wins 31-24. Now, I was told Cincinnati couldn't hang with an SEC team. This is like the 3rd time they've done it, but what do I know? Crappy G5 teams, am I right? Can I get an amen? Number 24, Houston beats UTSA 37-35 in triple overtime. That was a fun game to watch. Here's another interesting one. Number 21, Ole Miss beats Troy 28-10 with Jackson Dart starting at quarterback. Heading into week 2, we've been told Luke Altmaier is going to start. We'll see how that works out for Lane Kiffin. I think it's going to be, I'm going to be honest, I kind of hope it blows up in his face, just like I hope it blows up in Jim Harbaugh's face for the switching back and forth between the quarterbacks. Just pick one and go with it. Number 25, BYU beats South Florida 52-21. Number 14, USC beats Rice 66-14. Number 7, Utah loses to an unranked Florida team that probably should have been ranked 26-29. Anthony Richardson's massive coming out party had a great day in this one, but so did Utah. I don't want to overlook them. Cam Rising, that defense looked really good to hold an offense like that by Florida to 29 points. Florida definitely probably should have been ranked. I think they were getting a lot against them because of what they did last year. Dan Mullen left them in a bad place, but Billy Napier, good on him, because not a lot of people expecting them to win that, including me, and it was close. Cam Rising in Utah had that chance to win it right at the end, throws an interception at the goal line. Number 10, Baylor beats Albany 69-10. Number 18, Wisconsin beats Illinois State 38-0. Number 20, Kentucky beats Miami, Ohio 37-13. Number 1, Alabama destroys Utah State 55-0. Bryce Young, I believe, was out like early second quarter, and it still had a massive day for you in fantasy. He had like 100 yards rushing, 200 plus yards passing, 5 touchdowns. It's ridiculous how good Alabama remains to be. And then number 2, Ohio State just squeaks by number 5, Notre Dame 21-10. It's a really good game, defensive struggle. Let's talk about some of the games that we did not get a chance to cover on the College Fantasy Tonight show. And again, College Fantasy Tonight. I will put that link to the episode in the description here. Let's go Oregon State, Utah. Oregon State beats Boise 34-17. Not a lot of people expected this. In fact, everybody was talking about, we were too, that Oregon State should not have been favored in that game, yet they were, and they ended up winning. Chance Nolan, who came on strong for the Beavers here last year, was kind of becoming a fantasy asset, does it again. 23 points in fantasy for you, 14 to 23, 251 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, does also add 28 yards on the ground. And then one of our favorite freshmen, Damien Martinez, the running back, gets the workload here. Doesn't do a lot for you, but it was nice to see him get the most carries, 11 for 40, 4 points in fantasy. What was interesting was actually a linebacker who was the most productive they brought in to run. I can't remember his name. Is Jeremy Calais, I think is what it was. Brought him in to do some running at the running back position, and he was actually the most productive, which is insane to me. Next up, we're going to talk about this game on College Fantasy Night, but it was going long, and that was Texas. Texas goes in and beats UL Monroe. First game at home for the Golden Child, at least I call him the Golden Child, and that is Quinn Ewers. So Quinn goes 16 to 24 for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I had a friend that was at the game. He said it was not great. A lot of screen passes. Quinn was struggling to get the ball down the field. It's going to be rough because they play early morning game against Alabama this week in week 2. Alabama coming into Texas. Early line's not great. I believe it's 20 plus already. And I think I would bet that. Based on what he told me, granted, as a homer, we're all a little bit less objective than someone looking at it from an outsider perspective, right? But I think this could be a bad game for Texas against Alabama. But anyways, Bijan gets 10 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown, also adds 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy, really quiet in this one, 2 for 24, just 12 average, no touchdowns, does get you 6 points in fantasy, so you got that, but it's just not a great day for him. The big standout, though, was Jatavian Sanders. 23 points for you in fantasy, and 6 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. So good on Jatavian Sanders. And word is that Jaleel Billingsley is actually suspended for 6 games due to something that happened at Alabama prior to him coming to Texas. So they're not going to have him for the next couple of games. Jatavian Sanders may take that job and keep it. So if he's a guy that's available, which I highly doubt because we've talked a lot about him this summer, I would go pick him up because I think he's going to be in for a pretty big workload these next couple games, and he's going to, I think, remain the starter at Texas. All right, last but not least, the game that happened last night on Sunday, Florida State hangs on to beat LSU 24-23. We'll get to all the antics at the end here, but let's definitely talk about what happened. Jaden Daniels, we're going to start with the losing team here in LSU. 26-35, 209 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, does add 114 yards on the ground, ends up with 33.85 fantasy points. Jordan Travis had an impressive day here. 14-23, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, did get the 2 interceptions, 28 points in fantasy. Trayshawn Ward was the kind of the leader in the backfield. Get you just 49 yards on the ground on 16 carries. And then the wide receivers here, Ontario Wilson, 29 points with his 2 touchdowns and 102 receiving yards. Johnny Wilson, just 60 yards. And Micah Pittman, 45 yards on 3 catches. Wow. Again, it was an impressive game. In my opinion, Florida State was by far the much better team. But LSU gets bailed out as Florida State. They muffed 2 punts, and got 2 extra points blocked, which does end up costing them the game. The punts part even more so in the fact that the second punt was with about 2 minutes left in the game. Malik Neighbors muffs the punt. The Florida State gets the ball down at like the 6-yard line. They're trying to get the ball in with less than a minute left, and they fumble it at the goal line. LSU recovers. Jaden Daniels, which then very impressively drives down the field, and then this is where the controversy comes in. Throws it to his tight end. As his tight end is trying to get some more yards, but also get out of bounds. And he dives to get out of bounds with 1 second left, but his knee hits inbounds. The refs call a stop on the play because they assume he got out. You go back, review it. Nope, well, he actually did step out, or he was down. But, of course, in college football, once you get that first down marker, the clock stops when the play is dead. But as soon as everything gets set, the refs say roll the clock. Technically, they probably shouldn't have time to get one play off, but they did. LSU was given a 1 pretty much untimed down free play, as if you want to look at it from the NFL standards. They had 1 second. Jaden Daniels fires it into the back of the end zone. Touchdown. All they need is the extra point to tie the game, and it's blocked. FSU wins the game. Again, in my opinion, they deserve to win the game. They were the better team. Good on them. They are now 2-0. Jordan Travis is looking good. Florida State's looking good. I think this is going to be a much better team this year. Talked a little bit about that on the tailgate in the morning and on Better Sports Radio. I thought they were going to be a better team. It was going to be a close game. Wish I would have picked them, though. I did technically pick LSU to end up winning the game, but it is what it is. So let's jump into the early lines, the early betting lines now. And Moxley is not here. He was having some issues, so I'm going to give you guys what he wanted to talk about. We're going to start with, guys, if you're part of the website, get in the Discord. If you don't know how, DM me on Twitter. DM the Campus to Canton account on Twitter, or DM Colin Decker at C2C Decker. We will help you get in there as we drop all kinds of betting stuff in there, including the early lines, which we dropped Air Force, Tennessee, and UCF. When they dropped the first lines and we told you guys, and I won't say we, Chris Moxley told you guys to go bet these, at Air Force at 13-5, it's now moved up to 18. Tennessee at 4.5, now it's moved up to 6.5, and UCF at 5 is now moved up to 6.5. All right, let's talk about Iowa State. Right now it's at plus 3.5, and the 3.5 is key here. That number being above 3 is kind of crazy with the low spread. Above a field goal is somewhat unheard of in this kind of game. Ohio State graded higher graded higher in Moxley's model, and this game is going to be a very slow-paced game. 29 minutes possessions for 61 plays in week 1. This is 2 minutes, 2.05 plays per minute. My goodness, I'm sorry, which would have ranked 115th nationally in 2021. Both of these teams are ranked 106th and 108th in pace last season. Iowa scored just 3 points against a South Dakota State team, and they also had 2 safeties. Next up, USC -8. The USC offense can absolutely 100% score, and Stanford didn't score more than 4 points in their last 5 games in 2021, and this offense isn't that much different. The strength of the Stanford D, though, is their secondary with Kyle Blue Jones and Oklahoma transfer Pat Fields. The front 7 will get dominated here, despite USC's offensive line being relatively weak. If offensive linemen Andrew Voorhees and Brett Nealon can hold their own, though, Caleb should have time to throw, and those weapons should rocket ship. When Caleb Williams is not under pressure, he's roughly 40 to 50% better in quarterback rating and EPA per play, so USC should controlling the line matter here, plus, therefore, take the points. App State versus Texas A&M. Right now, over-under is at 54.5. Moxley's telling you to take the under. The Aggies return the top 5 defense in the country, and App State, while dominant last week against UNC, great game, they really aren't that good. I think it speaks more to how bad North Carolina's offensive line is. App State lost its top 4 receiving options in 2021 and is still a new unit out there with not much experience. Prior to the season, not a single starting receiver had more than 193 snaps as a starter in 2021. Safety Ontario Johnson is just #built different and is a menace in the secondary, likely severely limiting the passing offense when paired with Damari Richardson and Tyreek Chappell. Texas A&M might struggle here to score some points, as the App defense is better than what we saw last week in Boone, North Carolina, for those of you who don't matter. But Haynes King is #not good, despite his final stat line last week against Sam Houston. Playing against a non-FCS team, he could be exposed. App's edge and linebacker App State's edge / linebacker Nick Hampton is a legit freak and a high-end NFL draft pick. He had 2.5 sacks and a forced fumble last week against UNC. So again, bet the under on Texas A&M App State, sitting at 54.5. All right. That's almost going to do it for us today. We got to get into players of the week. Again, we're not going to talk much high school this week, just due to the fact that I'm just going to be 100% transparent with you guys. I did not get a chance to watch a lot of the high school games. I had some family stuff come up, and then we did start our first show with Better Sports Radio, so I was kind of plugged all in on that stuff. Did not get to watch a ton, but I will read off a couple things really quick. And we'll also give you our high school player of the week for the first time. We've kind of been holding off on those. We'll go over the quarterbacks like we did last week. Kenny Minchie, committed to Pitt, was 11 of 14 for 292 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's currently sitting at 39 of 55 for 707 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Incredible. Arch Manning was 8 for 14 for 142 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He added 37 rush yards. Jackson Arnold to commit to Oklahoma. Arch Manning going to Texas, by the way, in case I forgot to mention that. Jackson Arnold going to Oklahoma, 26 to 36, 356 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 29 yards on the ground, and 1 touchdown. And just a couple more that were really interesting to me. Avery Johnson, a guy that we're very high on here, only played the first half, 7 to 10, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had at least 75 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. And Christopher Vazina continues to struggle against a very poor opponent as well. 13 of 28, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but does get 17 carries for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. All right, so let's talk players of the week. Technically week 1 of college football. We gave away week 0. That kind of confused me there. This guy could have been player of the week last week, but we ended up going a different route. We ended up going to running back Chase Brown, but this week he gets it after another incredible performance. Congratulations to Drake May, UNC quarterback, 24-36, 352 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air with 12 attempts, 76 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Just an absolutely dominant performance from him against App State. And realistically, I think well deserves it. I know there were a couple other players who scored higher than him. We debated back and forth all morning long yesterday about who should get it. But what kind of made it big for me was the fact that App State got up 21-7. This game looked like it was going to be over, and everybody talking about how UNC was not that good and they were going to suck. Looked like it was going to be done. And Drake May brought them back. He did the LeBron James silencer on that App State defense. It was incredible to watch. One of my favorite games to watch so far this year. All right, freshman of the week. This one I feel like is very easy. It's CJ Donaldson, the tight end / running back for West Virginia, who dominated a Pitt defensive line that is really damn good. I'd argue, Austin won't listen to this, so it won't matter. I'd argue they're probably top 10 in the nation. 7 attempts for 125 yards and 1 touchdown. Doesn't sound like a lot, but he looked like he was picking up 4 or 5 yards every single carry. And he was picking up more than that, clearly, with 125 yards on 7 attempts. Just absolutely dominant performance. Again, for fantasy, too, he's listed at tight end. He's got tight end eligibility. If you can play a guy who's playing running back in your tight end spot, pick him up immediately off of your waivers. All right, so for our high school players of the week, we did not do this for week 1. They're actually in week 3. This was week 3 for the high school players. I'm going to show you all of them, and we will also release these on Twitter as well here just in a little bit. In week 1, the high school player of the week was Malachi Nelson, quarterback committed to USC. This was, by the way, his first half stats he plays for Los Alamitos versus Garces. He was 22-29 for 418 yards and 5 touchdowns, people, in the first half. I think he played like 2 snaps in the third quarter. Incredible game for him. Followed up by this player as well in week 2, Jerion Dickey, the wide receiver, going to Oregon in Menlo Atherton versus BCP. I don't know how to say the game, guys. I apologize. But Jerion Dickey had 6 catches for 108 yards and 4 touchdowns. Absolutely dominant performance in week 2. Definitely deserved the player of the week. But now we're going to week 3, right? And you may be thinking, well, who won it? Dylan Raiola was really good. Jackson Arnold was really good. Micah Hudson, the wide receiver, going to, I don't even know. He's not committed right now. Uncommitted right now. Was really good. Jaden Grayhouse had like 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, a punt return touchdown as well, 3 touchdowns going to Notre Dame. Roderick Robinson, the running back, going to UCLA, 20 attempts for 307 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cedric Baxter going to Texas, 26 carries for 274 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, who's it going to be, guys? Who's it going to be? Congratulations to Kyle Parker, the wide receiver going to LSU. Lovejoy, Texas High School versus Argyle. Look at his guy. Look at those stats. Look at that stat line. That's good for some players' half-season stats. 23 catches for 341 yards and 3 touchdowns in 1 game, people. 1 game he did that. Congratulations to him. He well deserved that. So that'll be it, though, for me, guys. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. I'm excited to have off. Catch me. I'll be on live on Better Sports Radio later today. We'll be talking a little bit of college football at lunchtime with Kyle Elfrink. I'm excited about that. And then we will be live again tonight with the roundtable doing a listener league draft. So Hope to catch you guys at some point in time later today. If not, you guys will see me again on Wednesday for W Debate, and then again back on Friday. We'll be back. No more family stuff, hopefully. We'll be back on Friday Live. Until then, everybody, have a great morning. We will talk to you guys again soon.